imagination, self-control. A very good afternoon to one and all, and a very happy Women's Day to all the women who have immensely made great contribution in the field of education and hence are contributing to the process of nation building. I am delighted to welcome you all to this new episode of Futuristic Education. These are a web series produced by Edudevs and partnered by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University, an initiative which tries to empower the 21st century educators with the 21st century skills. These are a city-based webinars. And I'm your host, Devyani Kapoor, and today we have a very, very esteemed panel. We have with us Dr. Prashant Nair, Vice Chairman, IQAC, and Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering from Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham University, Coimbatore. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
We also have with us Dr. Manisha Sharma, Principal, Venkateshwara School, Delhi. We welcome you, ma'am. We have with us Ms. Deepshika Gandu, Principal, Columbia Foundation Senior Secondary School. We welcome you today, our esteemed panelists, on today's deliberative session, which is on artificial intelligence in the classrooms. Remember when we used to go out to buy groceries or bargain with our local sabziwalas or the vendors? And now, with a click on our smartphones, the groceries, the vegetables, even our transport, we get everything at our doorstep. Times have changed. Technology has become an integral part of our day-to-day life. How Zomato can drop food of your choice at your choice of time, how you can order a taxi. These are some of the contributions of the 21st technology driven century. Well, we wouldn't have been able to survive the whole pandemic if technology wouldn't have been at our side. We deliberate today on something which is a very, very novel aspect of the 21st century. Yes, we talk today about artificial intelligence or AI that provides a computer program with the ability to think and learn on its own. It's a simulation of human intelligence into machines to do things that we would normally rely on humans. Today, the scope of artificial intelligence in India is huge. According to a 2018 discussion paper by Niti Aayog, the think tank of India, artificial intelligence has the potential to add USD 1 trillion to the Indian economy by 2035. This is not my topic, and I'm not the right person to speak on. So without much ado, let's move on to our ice-breaking question and then see what our panelists have to tell us today. While the debate regarding how much screen time is appropriate for children ranges among educators, psychologists, and parents. Another emerging technology in the form of artificial intelligence. Can our children remain untouched with this fourth industrial revolution? Let's hear it out from our panelists. I would be addressing you in the order of Dr. Prashant Nair, Dr. Manisha Sharma, and then Ms. Deepshika Dandu. And please adhere to our time limit, which is for this round 2 minutes each. So, how do you think artificial intelligence will impact the education system of the 21st century? Yes, Dr.
Yeah, thank you, Devyani ma'am. Let me first wish all the women, the super women here in this meeting, as well as the all across the world, all around the world, a very happy Women's Day. It's very topical to have this event on Edudevs event on this wonderful occasion. So I bow down to all the women before I start this talk. So, as Devyani ma'am said that, AI has completely changed the technology landscape. But we have to first understand one thing that before we move on to education, see, AI is an enabler. Technology is a means to an end. We have to first understand that issue. AI is an enabler. In fact, we talk about AI plus X. X can be anything. X can be culture, a museum. X can be food. X can be transportation. X can be engineering. X can be medicine. It can be anything. So AI is a technology that enables anything and everything, makes it smart, and impacts every aspect of human life. Now, education obviously is not is one of the fields that have very dynamically and proactively adjusted to this new normal. Education 4.0. So today, we are already seeing so much of education impacted by AI in terms of content management systems, learning management systems, blended learning that we are in today, virtual labs, collaboration tools, video conferencing tools, and so on. And if you put me, how it is impacting education, I will put it in two buckets. One bucket, I would say, is about how AI is impacting the teaching learning process and the pedagogy, the methodology for teaching. Now, this will be in terms of the content being created, multimedia, multifaceted content, learning management, assessment, very important. I know your next question is about assessment, but assessment, how it is getting impacted in terms of adaptive, the tools, the visualization, gamification, how AI is implementing, having games, plagiarism detection, analytics of performance. And so that is one bucket. The second bucket is, how it is affecting the administrative process. You're applying for CBSE. Over a period of time, the entire process will be online. The compliance issues, admissions, then automation, the class scheduling, records management, workflow, everything is going to be impacted. So from this, we are actually going to move on to, the rise of the machines. So as to speak, we are going to have what is known as a metaverse. I'm sure some children are here. Either you are an Avengers fan or you're a Batman fan, a Batman Superman fan. That's a Marvel universe or the DC universe. We are going to see all these universes merged into a meta universe where AI is there. So as a teacher, I may talk, I may ask my digital twin to do the evaluation of my lab at the same time. That's the what we are going to see in the future. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think very simply and beautifully explained that we need to understand it in two aspects. One is that when it comes to education, one is the pedagogical aspect of it, the other is the administrative aspect. We will deliberate more on this. Let's hear it out now from what Dr. Manisha Sharma has to say about this. Yes, Dr. Manisha.
You're on mute, Manisha, ma'am. She's on mute.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Prashant. You have covered all the areas. From the perspective of the school educator, if I see, of course, the landscape has been changed and it is the time which has come, revolution is there. And each and every aspect, if I'll just give few examples, a teacher who is really able to comprehend from the drawings of various things about the student who has been bullied. Now they have also created an app for that. And that app is helping to detect whether the child is going through any bullying or anything. That is one example. Another example, a device while the children, they're swimming in the school, all right, and a device has been installed in his cap or her cap. So if there is any danger or anything is there, then there will be a siren or anything alarm will be there. So you see, these are our co-scholastic activities where the artificial intelligence is impacting. At the same time, as Dr. Prashant rightly said, whether it's learning, the learner, because what kind of learners are there? The scene has changed. They are not the learners of 20th century. They are the learners of 21st century who are well abreast with all the 21st century skills. We want to infuse them, creative thinking, critical thinking, and artificial intelligence certainly helps us to infuse and embed that computational thinking. That is why the new education policy talks about artificial intelligence, coding, machine learning, because we want our children to be critical thinker. So on one hand, the assessment, the learners, even self-paced learning also, the gamification, as Dr. Prashant rightly said, and I have seen that, experienced this because I am that operation area where my children are there. If we are teaching them some concept, of course, the time constraint should be there. They should be the limited time. But they enjoy so much if through those gamification they learn any concept of mathematics which might be a block for them. Another important aspect, which is very, very important, how is it helping to promote inclusion? What is the vision of new education policy? That is equity and quality. So artificial intelligence is helping us to provide quality education. At the same time, equity too. There's so many tools are there. There's so many softwares are there which really help us to really train these children to have the access of learning, those they were deprived of. If the child who has cerebral palsy, that he may have device also robot to feed oneself. There may be a child who has a visual impairment problem, and there the language can be converted in the braille. Even in the today's phone also, if we check on our phones, that facility is available there. So this way, it has impacted our all the 360-degree, I will say, whether post-scholastic area, scholastic area, and first of all, hats off to artificial intelligence. Just it has helped us to provide education and have access to our children who have some language problems, visual impairment, or any other challenges are there. That's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. I think my question, you've already answered a question that I wanted to speak about, that about national education policy, that how will its vision be implemented, because we are, number one, we are in the fourth revolution, education 4.0. Then national policy is all about technology integration, plus looking the level at which India stands at this point of time. But you have actually brought it very well, that the two aspects that education policy talks about, inclusion and equity. I think this is something that if this can be taken care of, then the vision of the national education policy to a great extent will be fulfilled. But the question is that, are we technologically so equipped to talk about taking this up in our, and not, as I always say, let's not talk about the 2-3% of the creamy layer schools, or let's talk about India by and large. Because when we sit here, even though we try and bring educators from all aspects, all areas of the country, so that everybody could deliberate, bring up their problems regarding the issues that they are facing in the 21st century education. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. Let's hear out what Ms. Deepshika has to say about the implementation of artificial intelligence in the classrooms in India.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Tonight hearing from Manisha ji and Prashant ji, and I really have very less to speak about, but I'll come up with the basic of artificial intelligence. Now, how did this term come into being? How did they invent it? It was invented 4 decades back, and the human being, who's how does a human being react to intelligence? His past experiences are add on, and he, reveals out the intelligence out. So this is a set of algorithms or rules are created by the machine, which learns from the past experiences, and we say that the machine is artificially intelligent. It helps in decision making, problem solving, prediction, and communication. Now, we all know, I mean, you had taken so many good examples. So let me come to the classroom now. Now, what happens, a child who is very shy, he can't answer questions. He's like, he's shy enough to, he's like, he'll be biased, or he will be, at risk. So let's take this away. So this is the AI is the best way now to be implemented, and these children can grow multifold. So this is a beautiful way, to add on into a classroom. And now, and we all know that how asking question, making mistakes are important in learning. So this could go multifold ahead. And now the problem is that India, India has 600 million young people, and everyone deserves good education. So with high budget schools, things are going to go very well, and it'll be accessible to each and every corner. And as ma'am said, inclusive education can be enhanced. And other impact, other points of impact are that the child will get personalized education, tutoring, as well as 24 hours he can study at his own pace, at without any judgment or any way. And he can sharpen his own skills the way he wants. And automation of learning can happen, as Prashant sir said, not only in a classroom, or the automation can happen with the students as well as teachers. The grading can be worked upon. For example, a teacher, let's take the example of mathematics. Okay, we say the child is weak in maths. Actually, is not weak in maths, but a portion of mathematics he is weak at. Maybe he is weak at the logical portion, or he is weak at he can do algebra very well, but he can't do the other portion in a difficult way. So this is the way we can check out through AI. It's a very good tool. So we have to go into the roots of it. It's a long way, but we have to go into it. And the problem is that the collection of data, it should be just right for it to happen. So we look forward to the collection, and it can go long ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Very well said. That it can impact the learning graph and of the child as well. Now, my question to Dr. Manisha, to you, is that several education experts are saying that our system needs a revolutionary technological intervention. An intervention that would make it more inclusive, as you just said. It would make it more inclusive and accessible. Now, all of you, so many examples as to the way artificial intelligence functions in the system. Dr. Prashant spoke in his nutshell that it's pedagogical and administrative, when assessments, whether it is. So there are many aspects of it. But my question is, how much and to what extent can AI be actually brought in to the classrooms? Because that again will be very, very differential. The parameters will be very differential from a progressive, a private school to a bilat. So how much is essential that has to be brought in the classrooms? Yes, Dr. Manisha.
Yes, Ms. Kapoor, you have rightly. I like your first thing, the part of your question that yes, accessibility is very important. Keeping in mind India, which is I'm very passionate about, when we talk about equality, right? How it can have access. So I'll give you many examples that if we just read about that, even children who are coming from humble background, even villages, with simple tools and softwares and mobiles, they have really created such apps which really help them. I'll give you just an example because we often do these kind of workshops along with government school, and which is my observation that those children, they come because they're facing challenges. So their mind is always working to bring the solution. If you are just, if suppose I will give you a very specific example. If the child who has discussed with me and shared with me that in a classroom, they also often observe that the dustbin is full and the papers start coming out. So they have just simply installed a chip. So wherever that paper start coming, that start giving an alarm, right? With this simple. So these children, they do come with this solution. So there is no dearth of intelligence here. The government is providing many more aids and scholarship. And I will see if we work as have or have not, holding each other's hand in a more collaborative manner. I think it can reach out to each and everyone, and access can be happen to all, and everybody's beyond reach, within reach. The second part which you have asked me about setting the limitations. See, it is in what extent we should use artificial intelligence in whichever the areas are there. The assessment has been made very much easier by the artificial intelligence, which was the mammoth task for the teacher. We can diagnose and it can help children also, like Bajus and all, what they are doing it. They're providing such kind of software that each child individually can get to know about whatever the areas of weakness and how she and he can work. It has also helped teachers a lot. Whether it comes to school administration system, I think the artificial intelligence has really helped in many more ways. So as for inclusion, but when it comes to the limitations of using artificial intelligence, as far as it is providing and making our pedagogy, because we all talk about innovative pedagogies, as long as we are sustaining the interest of children, it is very, very important, because artificial intelligence is going to remain there. It is an integral part. But when it comes to gamification, games, and constantly glued to screen, it is very important for all the schools to work in tandem with all the stakeholders. The school cannot work in isolation. The school has to work in holding hands with the parents also, setting the limits for that, as long as they are glued to the screen. But in school, as long when it comes to assessment, whether it comes to pedagogical tool, whether it is assistive technology, which is helping and promoting inclusion, I think artificial intelligence is going to remain there. We cannot set limitations for this when it is a facilitator, but when it starts ruling our minds and taking away the emotions as a human being, then we should create a bar to that. Thank you so much.
This was Dr. Manisha telling us about how much artificial intelligence can be used. What are the challenges and limitations of using artificial intelligence? Dr. Nair, I would want you to reflect upon, we are talking about pedagogical aspects of artificial intelligence, how it has been designed and newer innovative pedagogical, what we are talking about. What do you have to say when it comes to assessment, and how best can assessment be impacted through artificial intelligence? Because we all agree, pandemic or no pandemic, AI or technology is an enabler. It is going to stay. And in other words, because AI becoming the buzzword and something which we all have to hinge on to make our tasks easier, and we have to rely on, So how do you think in the most effective, and again, accessibility, affordability, by keeping those things in mind? We cannot leave these aspects
Yes,
aside.
absolutely.
Yeah, sure. At one level, echoing the fact that, see, assessment is perhaps the biggest challenge that is there in terms of this new paradigm. Because there are so many tools for the teaching learning process, the curriculum, the pedagogy. There are so many tools, very easily accessible and available. But the assessment is a bit of a red flag in that way. There are challenges towards it. Now, learning because of AI is becoming very immersive, becoming very adaptive, and becoming personalized and customized. But the assessment also has to move on to that level of adaptive nature. So the child, whether it is in school or in higher education or in tertiary education, they should be able to learn at their own pace, wherein they are able to, study at their own pace, do it at their own time, and so on. So here there is one issue that I will say is that, I'm sure many of the teachers who are attending this will agree with me that, the grades of the students have shot up through the roof during the pandemic period. Don't you agree with me? I'm sure all of you agree. It's not only in schools and colleges and universities, grades are all, skyrocketed. And we know that, probably some of it at least is not, has been done through unethical means. So the assessment has to be not only adaptive. Another big challenge is that we need to have a fair and square assessment model, a level playing field where somebody who's studying and, burning the midnight oil should be given that, kind of outcome and so on. So I think that's the major challenge that we need to do. We need to integrate this plagiarism detection, monitoring of unethical means. There are already things, there are some AI applications. Many of the universities that conduct national entrance exams have used this. It tracks your eye movement when you're writing the exam, and it can make out, that when your eye movements are kind of little other than you need to only look at the computer and answer your questions. But if you're opening a new browser, if you're looking at a book, if you're referring something and somebody is coming and helping you, all these things can be very easily detected and predicted that there has been some unethical means. So I think we need to have more tools like that.
Okay. Right. And I think what you said was that, learning is becoming very immersive, adaptive, and personalized and customized, which we've been talking about differential teaching, learning, pedagogies. But when it comes to assessment, I would also like Dr. Sharma, Dr. Manisha Sharma to also reflect upon, because I want to take that perspective. Of course, Dr. Prashant was telling us that, how these proctored tests have become so, popular these days. So how did it happen in your school? Because we were having these online assessments. Was it effectively? What is the actual scenario? If you could just briefly reflect upon this, Dr. Manisha Sharma.
Ma'am, you're muted.
I'm muted.
Yeah.
Manisha.
Yes. So rightly, Dr. Prashant said that students did use all unethical means during this pandemic, and they were very happy and overjoyed. And I would tell you frankly that it was a mammoth task for me to how to convince them for offline examination. I said not to be afraid, not to be this. But then I told my teachers that we will not be doing justice, as he said, that who are really working hard genuinely, and the one who is just getting cut, paste, copy type of marks and grades, accelerated all the marks. So what we did, like a holistic kind of assessment also. What they answered subjectively during online tests, that is one task. But in addition to that, the viva voce has also been a very, very important component, which really help us to assess the child's knowledge. So what I'm saying is this, it is the one part, assessment via any IT tools. But in addition to that, we have to also have in place the other kind of assessment, so that it can help us. They are diagnostic in their approach, formative assessments through different activities to assess the child's personality. Now the children are coming offline and we can see the difference, because we know as a school principal that these children have to write their board examination in the month of April and May. The child who was getting 99% came down to 5% and 6%, which is really a matter of a great worry to me. But I want to motivate them. At the same time, I also want to really train them and assess them and prepare them for different kind of assessment. That is why CBSE has also worked on the holistic report progress card. That means the progress card has to assess the child with the different dimensions, not only just the technology enabled kind of assessment, all right, which can be diagnostic, but through different as many as means which can help us to the child. If the child has created a podcast, how original he or she is in this, and instead of just writing pen and paper, or again I'm saying cut paste copy kind of projects. But as we need to, as school educators, we also need to be creative while conducting assessments. That is my submission. Thank you.
Very right, very right. I think we keep talking about the 21st century skills of creativity, critical thinking,
Yes.
collaboration. They are
Team
so
building.
beautifully team building, and they are so beautifully aligned. Why they are known as 21st century skills is because somewhere technology is a sprinkler over the whole thing, and it cannot. So they have to function in a very collaborative way. Thank you so much. Coming to Dr. Ms. Deepshika. Now, I was just speaking about the fourth revolution, which has just picked up, and education 4.0, and what is shaping today is learning and systems are concepts of artificial intelligence, which is the topic of today, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchains, etc. When we are teaching our students and equipping them with this kind of technical knowledge, there'll be a time when we are creating such individuals who will be job creators and not just job seekers. So much of creativity, so much of critical thinking coming up, so much of innovation happening, because we keep talking about innovative techniques. My question to you is that if we are looking at a world like this, then how can schools incorporate, and how much they can incorporate, the artificial intelligence into the current curriculum? And how well national education policy aligns, if you could tell our viewers as well, that how national education policy aligns with this kind of a vision?
Yeah, hello again. Yes, CBSE has come up with really lot of things happening across. We also we had these trainings a year back, all the principals and the teachers, and CBSE is very clear that AI is there to be with us. So, and it's just a beginning. In the just to start off with, they have told us these are the tools. The tools are simple. They are just gaming tools, not much gaming tools, or some tools to enhance the vocabulary, but they are still good enough. They don't waste time. You can go do away with these things at home. The teachers can do away with these things to enhance the child as well as personal knowledge, and the best thing is the curriculum is not affected because they don't waste time, and it's easy to learn also. It was just a 2-hour session and we learned them all. So it was good enough, So when during these 2 years, all the teachers have learned a lot. Yes, technology was like, 2 years back, teachers knew a bit of it, but these 2 years were a drastic change in technology, and acceptance of AI is very, very easier now. this is the time to implement it, and NEP and the CP has come at the right time with these things, you know. And along with that, a lot of other things. I was few years back I was reading, there are a lot of simulation games, you know. If you want to implement those, that can be enhanced, but yes, again, they come with some cost. So I was thinking whether to talk about or not, but still it can be implemented. And best are the gaming tools for particularly the primary classes, and they don't know, you know, in a joyful way, in a fun-loving way, how much they're learning. That's the best part. I mean, if you want a child to get engaged in learning, that's the best way. Yes, it comes with a cost. The parent have to look into what the child is doing, but still it's good enough. That's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Prashant, my question is to you, next question. How can I would also want some suggestive tips from you for to be integrated into the curriculum, some technological tips from you. What recommendations would you give to our educators? Because lots of viewers are the educators today. How would artificial intelligence can enhance the performance of a child? So, plus, also we spoke about the assessment, aspects of assessment, that how, you were talking about the proctored assessment. Some simple techniques which the teacher can take to her classrooms. So what are those suggestive measures for the educator?
Actually, Devyani ma'am, there is actually a very comprehensive model available. CBSE, in association with Intel, has made AI as an elective, an optional elective for 8th, 9th, and 10th standard. They have made a very end-to-end course material with all the rubrics, all the assessment, the topics. They go for, it's a progressive thing, you know, you go from simple concepts to hands-on tools, you know, Scratch and Raptor, many tools are there in AI and all they can use. Now, there is also another resource that has been created on how AI can be assimilated into all other subjects like, you know, history, geography, and etc. But the sad fact is that I'm told that less than 1,000 schools have adopted this elective. It is very sad that only 1,000, around maybe less than 1,000, I don't know, have adopted this elective. And because I know I have been involved in this process of Atal Innovation Mission has developed a separate AI module with NASCOM. So I know the effectiveness of this tool, and I have a feeling probably it is because there is some resistance from the teacher side. You know, they are a little, there is some resistance that, you know, to adopt this, will it create hangama, will it create a lot of issues and all, some sort of apprehensions are there, perhaps in terms of jobs and all. So I would think that, you know, they should mandate, the Ministry of Education, CBSE, should convert this optional elective into a mandated elective, a mandated core course. Otherwise, you know, our students will not be equipped towards the future. So I would think it is absolutely necessary you make it mandatory. It is as important as learning history, civics, and geography, because the world, the future world, the digital skills depend upon it. At the same time, I also want to add one thing. You know, this should come with also a digital citizenship kind of crash course. Yes. That is very, very important.
Very important.
That is also these two things I think should be compulsory interventions. You know, you should. That's what I would feel to kind of make a level playing field. And this will also, you know, whether you're in a rural area, it doesn't matter. You know, everybody there is CBSE schools are there.
Very well said. Digital citizenship. If you want, number one, which you said, and I'm sure people would be now aware about the elective course on AI that has, because if AI we feel is going to be the order of the day, then it has to be like a parallel curriculum which runs. They need to equip themselves. It's like learning computers, which is important. So AI will be that. So to the managements, to the schools, to the educators, please do not shirk in adopting and adapting. You adopt and then you adapt, and every change is painful. So this transition has to happen if we want to create students, and we are hoping to create such students who are creating jobs and not just seeking. And the way the world is going to shape, it's important that and yes, there should be a crash course on digital citizenship, the code of conduct, because there's a whole big, I think, Dr. Nair, you were the one in our last webinar who quoted the statistics of the digital population that exists, which is, I think, I don't remember, the numbers were in some trillions and I must have written somewhere.
Five billion internet users, 3 billion Facebook users, 2 billion YouTube users.
Imagine, look at the statistics on your tips. So yes, it becomes mandatory that they have a code of conduct. They have some fundamental duties, some values woven around them when they are. And that is something which is extremely lacking. And the reason is the kind of crisis which as a society, we are now facing. There are newer kind of problems and newer kind of crimes that are coming in. Thank you so much, Dr. Prashant. I'll come back to you. Now, we have just stepped into talking about some aspects of the disadvantages which we could face when we are handling too much of indulgence in technology, but we cannot help it. That is going to be the order of the day. My next question is to Dr. Manisha Sharma. Now, on the flip side, as we said, AI education is not without challenges. Challenges in the fear of instituting robotic and systematic changes that are vulnerable to various kinds of attacks. What, according to you, are the disadvantages of artificial intelligence in classrooms? And then I will come back to Dr. Prashant to give us some suggestive tips to arrest those limitations or disadvantages. Yes, Dr. Manisha Sharma.
Yes, I will only say the aspect is this, though they have started working on that also to detect emotions. The feeling part, because we are human beings, we are made of flesh and blood. It is very important to connect one human to another. And that social emotional aspect, the emotional intelligence we talk about, the self-awareness, how to understand others, how to understand, identify others, how to relate with others. This aspect is missing in artificial intelligence. Though we try to do a lot of, as you started, like collaboration, team building, grouping them, they're discussing in breakout rooms, some online projects, but still I'll say any online, anything which is individually the person is working or the student is working, he will be deprived of that emotional intelligence aspect. So that aspect, I don't think that gap will always remain, and that will be only bridged by the teachers only. That is why robo can never be substitute of teachers. The teachers are going to remain there and forever. That is why they take care of how the children, what aspect during pandemic, which we all have witnessed. I mean, everybody geared up, we pulled up technologically, we have pushed much ahead, I will say. Had this pandemic not been there, it's not like this that I'm saying that it is a blessing, but what opportunity we got out of this adversity, that everybody pulled up themselves and they learned and they honed their IT skills. But at the same time, when it comes to social emotional skills of children, they were a lot, as a school principal, I know, There's so many students were there. They were going through so many trauma and psychological problems, which we really need to address. And still we are grappling with those problems. The anxiety, all of a sudden entering the room, coming to school, not getting ready. I mean, it was very difficult for them even to connect with their peer. Can we imagine the child, the small child of 3-year and 4-year-old who is just connecting with his or her peers via screen for 45 minutes? And one now, after these 2 years gap, they have understood now this is what the school called. Can we imagine the mental state of the child? So connecting with them, sharing, caring, learning, this comes only with human interactions, connecting with emotions. And that is the fun aspect and a very major aspect which is missing in artificial intelligence. That is what I will say. However, we'll develop to detect apps to emotions or anything. I got to know that there's some app which has been developed. If the child is playing too many video games or some violence is there, that anger quotient will come on the screen. It will be reflected. That's one thing. But there are a lot more to be done with human psyche and human intelligence and emotions, which is very, very important. The machines cannot replace human beings, which we really need to understand this very, very well. Thank you so much.
Dr.
And I'd
Prashant,
also like to
thank you
add, Ms. Devyani, that ours is the first school in entire West Delhi who started artificial intelligence as a core subject. And this is our third year in artificial intelligence. I have told my teacher, and my head of the department has written books also on artificial intelligence, Ms. Meenu Kumar. So I hope the journey has started, and let's all work together and rise together. That is very, very important.
Excellent. I'm sure what Dr. Prashant was referring to, the elective subject which CBSE has introduced on artificial intelligence. Very good. Thank you so much. Dr. Prashant, my next question to you is that what should be now we, on the one hand, we are talking about, screen time, which is ironical actually. Everything is shifting. There is a paradigm shift and there is so much of reliance on technology. And then we talk about the screen time. In between, there are so many apps and games and other things because children are not able to, for 2 years, good years, they were not able to go and explore the physicality of the team building, the playing, and also they were hinged onto technology. So this creates a very, very cliched and a very complicated situation. So when we, children, when we are talking about schools here, they are at risk with technology addiction, which we are all facing. What would be some of the steps taken to curb this problem of addiction and along with that, it is mandatory. We are talking about the topic of today's artificial intelligence in class. We are asking our teachers to equip themselves in those skills. How do we, in fact, we all need to today deliberate upon these ambiguities. As panel, let's ask you and take it up. Dr. Prashant.
So, one issue is you talked about screen time and digital addiction is there. But there are also other problems. See, to be very honest with you, AI, there are other problems. As Manisha ma'am was telling, this social skills have come down. It's now even before the pandemic. You see children playing with WhatsApp, with the mobile phone. The technology has definitely resulted in social skills going down. Perhaps emotional quotient has also come down. People are not, comfortable. I know that I have seen people, very, very smart 9-pointer students who are kind of not comfortable in social situations because they're so crazy and addicted to technology. So, the only way is there are two things. One, I told you about this, so the digital citizenship in the curriculum, and here the teachers have to play a part. The first one I want to talk about is digital citizenship is very important. It has to be compulsorily taught like a module everywhere, so that children know that yes, this is great. Technology is great. It's a leveler. It's an enabler. But we have to know the limits of that technology. We should not become a slave to that. Technology should be your slave. You should not be a slave to the technology. So when we are having this digital citizenship, we can look into all aspects, how to have etiquette, how to use the digital tools, the etiquette, how to be safe, the wellness aspect in terms of health concerns. So the etiquette is how to behave digitally, and the wellness is how to stay healthy. And the third aspect is the safety. We should know what is the Lakshman Rekha. There is a Lakshman Rekha for everything. You should know where that Lakshman Rekha is, not to cross it, and you should know how to be safe. Understand what is a scam, what is risky behavior, flaming, cyberbullying. These things we should be learning. Now, second thing you told about the teacher. I honestly feel that the teacher has to evolve. AI is going to come. You're going to be, the wave is already here. Now, the only way is to adapt and, adapt and embrace that change. Be a champion. A teacher over a period of time will become an enabler and a facilitator of learning. Rather than, sitting on the blackboard and giving a PowerPoint presentation, a teacher has to change his or her DNA, so as to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Prashant. Every time you speak, I always keep jotting down notes. You were talking about that, yes, the etiquette, wellness, and safety. Till now, schools, and I'm sure both the principals will agree with me, and then I will come to Ms. Deepshika, that till now the teachers, principals were fighting challenges of misbehavior, bullying, and which was there in aggression, all these problems which were there, disciplinary problems which were there right in front of them. Now the problem with how to teach these things, when you're talking about, would that be really simple, or would it take another so many decades to imbibe our students with these etiquettes? For me also, I have to put an alarm. There is a system where you can put a tab on how much Insta you'll be able to use. But that's us. How will we teach these lessons to our children? And I think Dr. Prashant very well said that teacher cannot just be a dispenser of information, or probably crafting curating knowledge, because the role will now become very different. The DNA of the educator will be very different, and they will have to be an enabler. They will have to be a mentor. They will have to be a facilitator. So they will have to take care of all such aspects, because if you say knowledge, technology, then we have various kinds of MOOCs where the student might not even need a teacher. The age will be of self-paced learning. So what then becomes the role of the teacher as well? I would now ask Ms. Deepshika, you've been hearing this. So what is your perspective on what are the challenges? Can you just elaborate a little more in your school? What challenges you faced when you were adopting AI in your classrooms? Or by and large, what do you think would be this condition of Indian schools? Would every school be like Dr. Manisha's school, who would have already 3 years back imbibed AI in their curriculum? Yes, Ms. Deepshika.
It's a big question. If we talk about India as a whole, it will take a lot of time. It will take another decade or more. We all know that the schools are going through tough times, and all schools are not as good as, or Manisha ma'am is quite lucky.
Every school.
We
have started.
Isn't it? So we have to accept it. I admit that my school is a little above budget, but still we have to think about it. Yes, my neighbor, the school in the neighborhood might not be able to accept it. Number one, you implement it. We have smart boards in all the classes, but do every teacher know how to implement it, to use it, and be that creative with that tool? So I think we have to create an urgency first. If the urgency is created from the grassroots level, I think, how did the mobiles come up? The urgency we created and everyone learned it, isn't it? So I think if the urgency created, the government norms will work very fast. And even, so we have to work this out in this way. And parallelly, this is the reason, that if you don't, you'll be left behind. If you don't learn WhatsApp, what we're going to happen, we all know. You don't know what's going on. You can't even greet anyone. You can greet anyone on Women's Day as well. So, or a birthday. So you're left behind. So this is what we had to create as a whole, a culture of, as I just love this digital citizenship. I just love this terminology. So we have to create it happening parallelly. There's one more thing which is very important, that even if you have implemented as a as a owner or a principal, but if the teachers are not willing, again, it's not going to happen. It has to be a complete, all the stakeholders. I'm just repeating it again and again. Manisha ji has just said about it. We have to accept it through and through. They have, else what's going to happen? Our school is going to go academically going to go up. Yes, you have to blend it with the teachers, education. It's not going to be AI separate and education separate. Teacher have to blend it with her own teaching methodologies, and it will go beautifully.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So artificial intelligence software is highly vulnerable to cyber attacks. And we are talking about Herculean data. We are talking about hackers. All these terms come alive when we talk about, technology and artificial intelligence in particular. Dr. Nayak, how to maintain, very simple question, how to maintain security and, what to do in case of loss of data due to technical issues. So, because, our viewers are coming from various cities, and I myself would feel I have to read all these information twice to ensure that I'm speaking right or wrong. So what would be your suggestions? Very technical things, if you could let our educators know. Give me, these are the 4-5 things. If you're going to, these are the things that you need to do to secure your data. And these are 4-5 things to also let us know how to handle some kind of cyber crimes too, when it comes to behavior or other things. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have a full 1-hour presentation on this, but I'll quickly say at one level, it's at a corporate or an institutional level. I mean, if you're a school, a company, a factory, or a university, or a startup, as an organization, you need to have a very clear perimeter security. You cannot, it's called perimeter security. You cannot compromise on anything, whether it is at one level buying licensed software. You have to buy, otherwise it's not going to work out. Buying licensed software, because unlicensed software is very prone to virus and other attacks. Number one. Second is having a proper firewall, having clear policies, having all the paraphernalia with respect to the security of the network and so on. I'm not going into technical jargon, but this is something that you cannot compromise. And of course, buying a proper antivirus software, which is McAfee, Kaspersky, and all, because you need to subscribe. You can install it for some time, but then every day new viruses are coming, new worms are coming, and only if you subscribe, you get it's called a signature of a virus. When you subscribe, only these McAfees and Kasperskys, they go on adding the signatures of the virus, and otherwise you don't get protected. That is one level at the institutional level. Like by licensed software, perimeter security, buying firewalls, buying all the security equipment, and so on and so forth. But more than that, the man in the middle, or rather the woman in the middle, the human element is very, very important. Many of these organizations have very good policies, very good technologies, but ultimately it boils down to the individual also. So as a person, as an individual, you're a teacher, you're an administrator, you have to be very, very careful. That's the thing. Passwords, many of us, 1 2 3 4 5 6, this is the password. Password is the first level of breach. It's very easy for somebody to hack by getting into your password. Your password has to be absolutely safe. And all of us have, I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 out of 99 out of 100 of us use the same password for everything. One email ID, office email ID, same password. Personal email ID, same password. Bank, same password. So we should try to learn to have different passwords, or have 3-4 versions of the same password. That is one way you can be little safe at one level. And then you get on your mobiles or your computer, you're going to get an Apple iPad, Apple iPhone. All this is flaming. Nothing is going to come. All these deals are humbug. They are just trying to cheat you. Nothing is going to, there is no free lunch. Nothing is going to come free of cost. Click this, you will get a free iPad, you will get a free iPhone. Just stay clear from all these. No bank is going to ask you for a password in email. No company, no financial institution. They will call you on the phone and ask. So if you get these kind of messages asking for password, asking for confidential information, Aadhaar number, just stay clear of it, and never ever click all these nice looking things, but they are nothing nice will come out of it. These are the things that quickly come to my mind, but I have a elaborate thing, but I can only remember of these 3-4 things.
I think that is a great insight that you've given, that one is buying licensed softwares, because that's most of the people do, that they kind of downloaded versions using firewalls, proper firewalls. But most importantly, it is your passwords that you have to maintain. So, but also let us know that as a school, because school has enormous data, enormous, and how to, because I remember once when, and I've also mentioned it in one of my the book that I'm writing, one of my books, that how a group of very, very bright students, they hacked, that is about 6-7 years, 8 years back, they hacked the entire school's data, and they juggled with about 100 students' marks were changed overnight, and their grades skyrocketed. But so data becomes extremely important. So to schools, from that perspective, what should the school do? What are some of the suggestions to the management?
So ultimately, you're talking of some sort of automation. It's basically a kind of an academic ERP application, enterprise resource planning, where you're putting the school to children marks or some sort of, it's basically an ERP. Now, yes, whatever academic ERP you are buying or you're developing, ask the vendor very clearly, what are the security controls? Now, when he is giving you that, there are 3-4 levels of security that he or she will tell you that, this is one level of security. This is the second level of security. This is the third level of security, fourth level of security. Plus, there is a hierarchy of rights and privileges. So the principal has some rights and privileges. The faculty teacher has rights and privileges. The student will have only view-only access. The student, so those kind of things, when you are procuring a software, talk to them and ask them to give it very clearly in writing that these are the protocols available. Not enough. Show that to a third party. And let that third party also look into whether these protocols are safe enough, because everywhere. But then, having said that, there are smart children everywhere. Any protocol, there are very smart people who will be able to hack, but it is a 1 in a million possibility. When you have 3-4 layers of security and 3-4 layers of users, hierarchy of users with proper rights and privileges, I think 99.99% of the issue will be solved. But there are very, very smart people, that we cannot do, some prodigies and all who know vulnerabilities and all. I know, this has happened, in fact, we have our own academic ERP system, a university student. You cannot even access it from home. The IP is protected. You can only access from the university unless you get but still somebody was able to hack. That kind of things are there.
So, as we come to the end of this session, I think so much has been discussed, but so much remains to be discussed, explored. I would also question, we are talking, all these discussions which I heard from our panelists, I was sitting here and contemplating what would be then the role of the educator. Again, that is one question we keep coming back to. They are indispensable. We realize that no robot can displace an educator. But what will be their role in an artificial intelligence complied classroom? 1 or 2 sentences. Yes, Dr. Manisha, very briefly.
Yeah, sure. Artificial intelligence is and going to be an integral part of innovative pedagogical practices in a school. We have to accept it and we have to use it as much as creatively so that to make the entire learning process very joyful to adhere to new education policy. At the same time, we also need to make students aware of cyber security laws regularly. Regular sessions are required for that. It has to be also part of their almanac. Every part, orientations for parents, I think it is certainly going to help us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Ms. Deepshika, what would you like to say on this one last aspect here?
Looking forward to it, and I'm sure it will be a fun-filled content. As I said about the teaching should go on with it. Yes, if we are little not so good about it, or we leave it to the machine, things can go hayway. It can superpower. The machine can superpower someday. So we have to be very careful about that as well. But still, we look forward to it because it's going to enhance the potential of every child with his own pace. So it'll be great enough. Yes, long way to go because a lot of data is needed in this country. A lot of people, a lot of work.
Thank you so much. Yes, Dr. Prashant, with Amrita having a hospital where operations are conducted by robots, what would you talk about an artificial intelligence compliant classroom? Would teachers be replaced by robots? Would they be able to take charge of the emotional quotient of the children? As Dr. Manisha did talk about, that there are certain apps which detect the emotional aspects of the child as well. Did Dr. Prashant?
Yeah, so since you are talking of our hospital, I wanted to just share this thing. At one point of
Please.
time, we have this Da Vinci surgical robo that does surgery. But you will be very surprised. Nowhere in the hospital you can put a pen drive, a flash drive. You cannot put a pen drive anywhere in any of the offices. It is disabled because of the sensitive data. Because see, ultimately it's a human being, the man in the middle, the woman in the middle, that person, somebody can, you may have anything and everything. You may have 100 protocols, but if somebody is able to do a cut, paste and take some sensitive information. So I recall, I was struggling to share some, I'm in the Coimbatore campus and this is in Cochin. I was struggling to copy a presentation because it was not, no computer had a pen drive or a flash drive. So I think AI is here to stay. There is no doubt about it. And both students and teachers have to equip themselves. But the teacher has to adapt, become a facilitator and enabler. But the time is very far away. We are not going to see Terminator like rise of the machines, at least for the next 20 to 50 years. I don't think it's happening because even today AI is in a very nascent stage. Whatever intelligence you have, you are trying to mimic it in the system. That's all. We have not come to a level where they have started adapting, like this Terminator movies and stuff like that, or Avengers and all. But we, as a teacher, I think we have to adapt. We have to, adjust, and we have to embrace the technology so that we equip our students. I think that would be my last word.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Prashant.
I just
Deepika,
add,
do we have any
Devyani ma'am,
questions
one
from
thing
the
just
audience?
adds, if you kindly permit me. I said he spoke so nicely about
Please.
digital citizenship, but with digital citizenship, we teachers and students also have a huge responsibility that how to use it. That is also very, very important. That's all I wanted to add it.
Very true,
Absolutely. Very true. This is, I think. Yes, Deepika, do we have any questions from the audience?
Dear audience, if you have any kind of questions, kindly raise your hand. I think, ma'am, all their questions have been answered with this was such a great deliberation.
We come to the end of this session, and as we all know, AI is an enabler. It is here to stay. But when it comes to the pros and cons of AI, there are clearly more benefits. However, in order to fully gain from AI, a balance must be struck between the machines that optimize the tasks and the people that use the machines. We had enough discussion over this, that how should a collaborative effort be made between the machines and the educators or the people who use them. The aim of artificial intelligence in the classroom shouldn't be to replace educators. It should make their jobs easier and more fruitful and purposeful. The use of artificial intelligence in education has still not been embraced by all schools completely. One of our panelists, Dr. Prashant, did refer to the elective subject which CBSE has introduced as AI. And we must incorporate it as a parallel subject so that to equip our students, educators, and other stakeholders to take this seamless transition in the system of education. Coming to an end, on this Women's Day, let's celebrate the success of all empowered women and pledge to make each and every woman strong enough to raise her voice against injustice and suppression. And let's not forget, education is one industry where women have made the biggest contribution. A very happy Women's Day to each and one of you who's watching our program now. And we come to an end. Please stay tuned to our upcoming web episodes on futuristic education. These are a series of episodes which have been produced by Edudevs School of Inspired Teaching and Learning in collaboration with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. For more such issues, and if you have any suggestions, please write to us at info@edudevs.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so much,
ma'am, for conducting such a wonderful session and moderating. Thank you, everyone, my co-panelists, and thank you, all the viewers. Thank you so much, everyone, and a very happy Women's Day to all.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.